If you like this video, please give it a like and hit subscribe. Hit the notification bell not to miss more content coming soon. Welcome back to another episode of FPL Squad Picks. It's game week 20. We've got the Watchlist top 5 coming up. There's some injury news, a return to action. We've also got best of the rest of the players that didn't quite make the top 5 cut. And there's some bonus information at the end of the video, so be sure to stick around. And let's jump in. So first up on the watch list this week is Patrick Bamford of Leeds. So they have Newcastle United this game week. Throughout the next 4 game weeks, they've actually got 2 favourable fixtures, but they are sort of sandwiched between Leicester and Everton match. Sort of highlighted the colour on Everton a little bit lighter because they can leak a goal, and Bamford might be likely to get one in that game. But with Digne being back for Everton, not quite sure how their defence is looking. They might get even deeper now that they haven't got the likes of Calvert-Lewin up top. But I know that Bamford still is able to get a goal in a lot of these games just due to being in the right place at the right time. A lot of his goals have come from being inside the box, which brings on to the next point that this season he's already had 10 goals and 2 assists, which for a cheaper striker is brilliant. It's a good return if people have been holding him from the start. He's actually ranking at 7th out of the top scorers throughout the Premier League currently, and it's quite tight at the top. So he's on 10. I think the top goal scorer is currently on 15. So it's also looking good for him going forward, as there will be a double game week against the Southampton fixture that's just been postponed in game week 19. So that will be due to be rescheduled. So if you are looking to hold a cheaper striker for the long term, he's someone to look at. Might be good going forward with that extra fixture being thrown in. And also just his price in general is good as a holding striker. Free up some money to get some premium players in the midfield maybe, or another premium striker. But someone that's not just going to be a bench warmer. He's going to be able to play a full fixture of 90 minutes and get some good points returned for you. If you're enjoying the video and would like to support the channel, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. Now let's get back to it. At number 4, we've got John Stones. So Man City have shown that they are getting back to their winning ways, but also keeping clean sheets, having an absolute stormer of a game against Crystal Palace. I'm sure that, like myself, all people that didn't have John Stones in their double game week team are kicking themselves. But he's proving himself to be nailed on in that defensive lineup. And only looking at the next 3 fixtures, it looks like they might get another 3 clean sheet potential there. So West Brom is the next one coming up. There's always a risk with Man City with Pep doing the rotation, but between him and Diaz in that centre defence, they look pretty nailed on. The only doubt is that they might want to have a little rest, so he might give them a little bit of time out. But in the long term, I think he's quite a good pick. So apart from the 3 favourable fixtures and those 2 goals that he got against Palace, he's been a threat for the set pieces. Even in the last game against Aston Villa, he didn't get the goal, but he was very close for a few crosses in the box. He seems to be that sort of tall defender that's looking to get their head on it for a cheeky sort of scrappy goal. So one to look out for. I'm not potentially thinking that he's going to be scoring in every game, but if he's a threat up top as well as the clean sheets, I think he's quite a good pick. One to look at as well might be the price rise, because I know that I was looking at him prior to game week 19 and he was 5 million. It has started to rise already. I think with the increased ownership of those 2 goals going in, I think it's only going to keep going up, and especially coupled with these potential clean sheets in the next 3 weeks. So one to jump on maybe early if you haven't got a triple Man City already, or if you're looking to change it around maybe. But yeah, definitely one to look at. And also still at the moment quite well priced. to hold and free up some money. You know, he's not one of the Liverpool 7 million defenders. So at number 3 we have Michail Antonio. So this was my transfer in last week. It's on a double game week, got me a goal for both the Burnley and the West Brom game, so I was very pleased with that. Looking good. Still not looking 100% fit, but he's still getting in amongst the goals. So with West Ham in general, for the next 4 fixtures, they've got some favourable ones, but Liverpool is thrown in there. But given their recent form, who knows, they might be able to even keep a clean sheet or get a goal against them at least. Or it could be the game that Liverpool turns it round and gets back onto their 7-0 goal streaks again. But as it stands on paper, it looks like West Ham have got some good fixtures coming up. He's a solid pick. We've got 5 goals only at the moment, but that is taking in consideration that he did have a bit of an injury spell, so he did miss a lot of the games. So if you actually balance out with how many games that he's played, 5 goals is still pretty good, again, for one of the more cheaper strikers in this sort of same remit as Bamford. So he's pretty well placed to have as a holding player again, if you want to free up some more money and go for, say, 2 up top that are cheaper strikers. I know that's how my team's currently set up at the moment. There is doubt, obviously, under his fitness and whether he can continue to stay fit. I know that David Moyes is keen to sort of rotate to make sure that Antonio gets his rests. But with the current situation with their strikers, I know that Haller has recently been sold to Ajax, where he's doing very well. Pretty annoying for David Moyes, but just don't think he fit within the Hammers setup. But they have got a new striker in, a young guy called Afalian, I believe his pronunciation is, and he's actually scored within the FA Cup on his debut, so it sort of bodes well that he can find the net. But is he going to throw him straight into the Premier League games? I'm not so sure. I think they still will stick with Antonio, manage his minutes, especially being 7th in the table. I don't think David Moyes is going to want to risk anything that could potentially harm that position. He's just going to look to build on that, if anything. But if he can stay fit, and his minutes are managed between himself and the new young striker coming in, could see that he lasts the season and got potential to get some good returns. At number 2, we have Bruno Fernandes. So we have 3 favourable fixtures coming up again within the next 4. Even Arsenal could potentially leak a goal. They've looked very hot and cold. But with the next game being Sheffield United and their current form, you'd like to think that if goals went in, Fernandes would be involved some way, whether it was assist or getting the goal himself. So yeah, he's been so consistent throughout the season. I think it's hard to find a team without him in at the moment, especially given that we've got some good fixtures coming up. I have put Southampton down as a slightly favourable fixture. They could leak some goals, but they are also in some good form at the moment, so that could be a bit of a tough one. But yeah, definitely for the Sheffield United game, I think probably a lot of people are already holding Bruno from the game week 19 and the blank game week before that in game week 18. So his goals are 11 so far, with 7 assists, which is fantastic in terms of FPL returns. So consistent. He's got the 4th place at the moment amongst the top scorers, but on 11 goals, as I mentioned earlier, the top striker at the moment, I believe, is on 15. So it's not too far off. And him being a midfielder, he's getting extra points there for those goals. He is also on penalties. So anything that happens with United in the box, that he's going to step up, and he's been, again, really consistent with those penalties. Missed a few, but I think he's got back to sort of his usual form. The only doubt, if you're looking to bring him in for these fixtures coming in, is that he's on 4 yellow cards. So it's kind of a ticking time bomb, and I know that he does like to have a bit of a say towards the referee now and again and voice his opinion. Which is great, it's all good fun to see, but if he does get another yellow for something silly like that, it could mean a match ban for him. So hopefully he can get to the point where that then won't be such an issue, I think, because the amount of yellows then extends, so you don't need to have 5. I think it jumps up to 10 then, but they've got to get to like 19 games, I believe, before that can happen. So it's going to be close, but for those like myself who have already got him in their squad, I see no reason why moving them on would make any sense at the moment. Maybe there's a case to get in Rashford over Fernandes if you were thinking to bring in a United player, but again, that's something else to look at, and we'll take a little look at that later on in the video. So this week's top spot goes to Phil Foden. Man City have been back in form, finding the goals again, and keeping clean sheets. And if we look at the next 3 fixtures, we've got West Brom, Sheffield United and Burnley. All 3, they could see big points were scored, both ends, sort of in the attacking players and the defensive. I've gone for Phil Foden for reasons that we'll get onto later within the Manchester City setup, but there's obviously a big choice to go from within their attacking positions. He has only got the 1 goal, but if you compare that to the amount of minutes and games that he's actually started, he did have a very slow start to the season, even though he was showing good form. Pep just wasn't choosing him over other players within the team. But if you look what he's done now, he is being started and he's playing more minutes. He's got an 88% pass accuracy, and within that City setup, they're constantly passing that ball around, looking to stretch the play and make sure that they can get that sort of break in a gap in defence and attack. So, you know, I think he's an essential player for them to be in form and doing well. The Pep rotation is obviously something that you've got to risk when you go for these Man City players. I think really the only one who is sort of out of that is, aside from Edison, you're looking at Kevin De Bruyne, or now even with the likes of Stones and Diaz in that central defensive positions. The rest of the field is pretty much anyone else's guess. I mean, there's constant rotation, and we know that now Kevin De Bruyne is out, so there's going to be need to fill that position, whether they look to obviously now the bench and try and bring in maybe Mahrez, Bernardo Silva, Sterling in those regular positions, take up that mantle where Kevin De Bruyne was, could leave space for Phil Foden to come in. So just a note on that as well. I know that the team news has just been released for the FA Cup game that they're playing, and Foden is starting. Gundogan is being benched along with Diaz and Cancelo, and Stones is not even in the team at all. So might give a bit of insight into where Pep's mindset is for the team going back to the Premier League. But obviously then just to pick up back on Foden, he's priced really reasonably for a midfielder, especially now if he does get those minutes and does get involved within the points. But there is an argument, if you can afford Foden and you're looking to bring in a Man City midfielder, you could look to the likes of Gundogan. I mean, he's been playing a lot further up the field. He's been a big influence in the last few games. He's cheaper, and it looks like he's actually going to be taking penalties now. I know that Sterling deputised from Kevin De Bruyne midweek and skied it over the bar, but then Gundogan has taken one since that and nailed it. So I think Pep might look to him if there is a penalty. So it could be a lot of value there in a player that's just over 5 million. So the decision is yours. Now we have some injury news. Unfortunately, we do have Kevin De Bruyne out with a hamstring injury, and we've got an expected return date according to the FPL game of the 21st of Feb. This could be sooner, could be later. Don't really know yet, and that doesn't look good for him for a next sort of 4 to 5 game weeks anyway. So those of you who are holding him in the team, might be worth looking out to another premium midfielder, or if you've got 2 transfers, shifting that round, maybe going for a cheaper midfielder and then putting it up to one of the strikers. Yeah, it's completely up to you. Obviously, then if you want to look at maybe benching him, it's going to be quite a while to have that much money wrapped up on your bench, and you can always bring him back in when he returns back to fitness. The other one to mention is Jamie Vardy, who is out with a hernia and is having surgery on that. His expected date is a lot sooner. It's the 13th of Feb, but obviously given their sort of run of fixtures, I think there's a lot more games that we can pick from for players. I know that obviously this week coming up, the Spurs team have Liverpool, so it's going to be quite a tough fixture. But after that, then Spurs do have a good fixture. And I think going forward, they're also due a double game week. So I know that that might be in a lot of managers' minds where they're looking at potentially bringing in these Spurs players. So that might be something you want to sort of fast track and bring in a bit earlier. I know that some people might be looking at Kane or Son. But I think by the time these double game weeks come along, a lot of us are probably going to look to have both those players in our teams. So it'll just depend on, as the fixtures run, I think they sort of have a good and bad mix throughout the next 4 weeks. So not much to report in this one, but for back in action, we have Danny Ings back from injury. He started and played in the FA Cup against Arsenal. Nearly played the entire game, but was taken off just towards the end. So obviously looking to give him a bit of a rest to make sure that he's going to be fighting fit for these Premier League games coming up. I think Southampton have missed him. Shea Adams wasn't doing too bad, and I know Theo Walcott has sort of come in and been a big influence with the team, but he just brings that bit of extra goal threat and sort of danger in the box, really. So yeah, I think Southampton fans are going to be very happy to have him back, and one to look at, because if their form continues, I know that he will be in a few FPL managers' mindsets to maybe bring in on a good fixture. So some of you might disagree or have different opinions on the top 5 that made the watch list, but there's quite a lot of choice for this game week coming up. So I have done a little list of best of the rest. So it's basically just the players that are still within people's minds from current form and good fixtures, and they're in no current order. So it's just a case of I've just grouped them together for their teams. And if you have a look at like the top 3, they're all Man City players. You've got Gundogan, Cancelo and Diaz, all 3 excellent choices. Again, they are currently all being benched for the FA Cup game, so maybe that'll mean that they are pretty much nailed on for the next Premier League game. So just to bear that in mind, obviously if you're looking at your squads, maybe take a little look at if they've played through this weekend in the FA Cup games to see whose minutes are being managed, and potentially try and guess Pep's rotation. Put Kane and Son on there. It's not the easiest of fixtures against Liverpool, regardless of how their form is, and we all know they're still a good team. Even Salah just underneath that, again, similar sort of thing, that if you were looking to bring in one of these players, it's not a great fixture to bring him in for, but the players are still getting returns, and we know that they've been consistent sort of throughout the seasons on FPL. And we know that Spurs have got a double game week coming up, so might be worth sort of bringing those in, especially if those type of people are holding the Kevin De Bruyne. A lot of money there wrapped up in that player, so looking to move it on to another premium player. Those 3, great choices, and tend to hit sort of like up towards the 200-point markers by the end of the season. I have put in Jack Grealish there as well for Villa. Very influential for the team. Good attacking returns for assists and goals. The only thing to mention, similar to Bruno, is that he is on 4 yellow cards as well, so 1 more would see him miss the next game for a match ban. And then at the end we've got the 2 United players, Rashford and Cavani. I've left off Martial there just because he has looked a little bit lethargic when he's playing. Not sure what Ollie's setup is going to be, if he's going to give Rashford a bit of a rest and play Martial. I think he's been chopping and changing a lot with Pogba as well on the right and the left. So it's a bit of a mixed bag at the moment, and Pogba is another one that you could have included on this, but with only a few games back and showing current form, maybe too soon to sort of start bringing him in just yet. But Rashford has certainly been consistent, and Cavani looks a really good goal threat. So if you weren't getting in Bruno for that sort of 4 yellow card reason, and you didn't have a United player and you were looking to bring one in, these 2 might be one that you want to look at. A little bit of bonus information for all us FPL fans and general football fans. Just came across this and thought I'd give it a mention. Anyone that hasn't got a Sky or BT Sport subscription, there has been a decision made that they are going to make the fixtures free to air. So I've put a little list up there of the games that are showing. On the right hand side you can see that they say multiple broadcasters, so it looks like some of these fixtures are going to be played across terrestrial TV, so you can catch up with whoever team you support and obviously follow any guys that you have in your fantasy squad. There is going to be another fixture then as well in the next game week, that is going to be played on BBC Sport, which is West Brom v Fulham. In the report that I saw, it did mention that this would be going on until game week 26. I will put the link in the description below to the Sky Sports page that I was reading that article on, and it does say that there's going to be further updates. So it's just a quick mention to that. If you want to catch up with your team and watch them on TV, it looks like it's going to be free to air. So take a look out for that news coming up. Check the link in the description below. Feel free to leave a comment below about who you think will be vital this week and going forward. If you feel I've missed anyone, put their name below to hear mine and other managers' thoughts. If you like this video, please give it a like and hit subscribe. Hit the notification bell not to miss more content coming soon. Thanks for watching.